Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we have a great show for you guys today where we will be talking about Scottie Scheffler's win at Muirfield Village at the Memorial Tournament, how fantastic he was throughout the weekend, and who was able to compete with the greatest golfer in the world at this current moment. Our second segment, we'll be talking about some superlatives from the weekend. Who played well in what aspects of the game? Did players play well? My most surprising and most disappointing players as well. In our third segment, we'll be talking about the amazing year that Scottie Scheffler is having. He has been fantastic all season long, and we're going to talk a little bit about him. In our fourth segment, we'll be talking about Live Golf and give the review of how Live Golf Houston shaped up. And in our fifth and final segment of the night, we'll end it off by talking about the U.S. Open a little bit, as we have the third major of the year coming up, and we have a little bit of news that goes along with what's happening at the number 2 Pinehurst in North Carolina right now. Without further ado, we're going to get right into all of that. But before we get started, as always, if you would like to become a little bit bigger part of the show than you guys already are, use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. If you have any questions, you can also go ahead and shoot them at me using that as well. So we're going to get right into our first segment of the night. But as always, gsmcpodcast.net, as you see on the screen. Scottie Scheffler's win at Muirfield Village was a very fantastic one and very important and amazing one at that. He is the first player since 2001, Tiger Woods, to win the Players, the Masters, and at Muirfield Village, the Memorial Tournament, all in the same year. A very impressive feat that only 6 players have been able to do in their entire career. If I'm not mistaken, it is Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, Tiger Woods, Scottie Scheffler, and I can't think of the other two. But I know there's 2 more in there as well. So for him to be on that list with those, those 3 other golfers are known as some of the top 5 best players of all time. Scottie Scheffler joining that list is very impressive. So we're going to take a look at his weekend, see what he did. In the first round, it was a very impressive just kind of controlling the golf course round for him. Only 1 bogey. It was on 5. 1 bogey on 5 where he went. It was a good tee shot onto the fairway. Then 240, and it goes to. So there's water on this hole. There is a creek on the left side of the green there, and he flies it a little bit over. It goes over the water on that left side of the green. So plays it from. It's pretty bad rough over there beyond that creek. Has to fly over the creek, getting it onto the green. Very difficult shot. And then he on and around the green, he duffed his chip, ended that with a 4, gets it close to the pin, 5-6. So 2 putts, 3 shots around the 2 putts, 3 shots around the green. It's pretty unfortunate what he did here, but that's golf. And he bounces back, gets 6 birdies in the round on 11, 13, 15, and 18. He birdies 18 to end the round. There was not many birdies on 18 in the weekend. I think it was in around the 20s, the amount of birdies on 18 from the, there is so many rounds that got played. And so many different opportunities. And 18, of course, the hardest hole on the golf course, it really played like that. These greens this weekend were insane. The ball was rolling on them. And we're going to see that very similarly at the U.S. Open this weekend. So a lot of these guys are going to use that to their advantage, play with, what they learned at Muirfield Village at the Memorial Tournament. And the Memorial Tournament definitely played like a major this weekend. It was great to see that after Valhalla and how many people were, outraged at the how low of scores there were to get this tournament where there was really only 2 guys in contention to win this thing. It was really between Scottie Scheffler and Collin Morikawa, and then the next best guy was at 4 under. And there was only, There's only 11 guys that were under par in this entire field, so very great golf tournament this weekend. Muirfield Village is always a very special one, always a fun one to watch, and it really played like that. But that is Scottie Scheffler's Thursday, and then his Friday was also very impressive. Three birdies to open the round on 3, 5, and 9. Get the revenge on hole 5 on that par 5. One of the easier holes on the golf course, so you do want to take advantage of that. And then 15, an eagle to take back the 2 bogeys he gave up on 11 and 13. And then 18, he birdies 18 once again. Played fantastic at 18 throughout the weekend, so you got to give him credit for that. And then on round 3, he does bogey 18 here, but it is birdie to open his round. I believe at that point he was at a... When he birdied, I think he was at around 11 under or 10 under, and we really looked at, oh, this is done, because he had like a 5-stroke lead on the next best guy, who I think it was Victor Hovland at the time, and it was Scottie Scheffler's it. He's got this one in the bag, and then he bogeys 5. Gets it right back on 6, and then a triple at 9. A very rare Scottie Scheffler mishap. His tee shot goes OB, so he's back on the tee box for 2. Then sends one to the rough on the right side. Has to lay up from that because he doesn't get a good shot at the green, and then sends it to the rough on the other side, and then he gets onto the green in 5. On a par 4, and then 2 putts, as I believe it lips out on him right on the putt for a 7. And he, all the hard work he did on the first 8 holes are for naught, as he triples 9. Not something we see Scottie Scheffler do often. And at that point, a lot of momentum started changing. We saw Victor Hovland, Collin Morikawa. These guys were able to be right on his heels and look like they could maybe get this one from Scottie Scheffler, as just 30 minutes before this it seemed like it was done. But he triples, opens the door, and then immediately shuts it. He gets all of that back on 10, 12, 15, goes 3 under on those holes, and then bogeys 18 and takes it to the Sunday lead, where he doesn't give it up. Although a bad day on Sunday, it didn't matter. He was really the only one competing on Sunday, as Collin Morikawa tried to make a surge, but Adam Hadwin dropped off. Everybody else dropped off. Victor Hovland had a blow up on the back 9 on round 3, so he was nowhere to be found at the end of this one, and it was Scottie Scheffler's for the taking. He shakes Jack's hand. He has his family greet him at the end, and it's a very, very impressive weekend from Scottie Scheffler. Some holes that I want to highlight here, it was 6. He played very well on 6 for most of this tournament. A par, and then 2 birdies to finish out round 3 and round 4 on 6. And on, it was 11, 13, 15 were very good for him. 15 especially, on the weekend, he goes 4 under on 15. That's really where he gets a lot of his scoring from. And it's just a very impressive scorecard when you look at it from Scottie Scheffler. He has, of course, like I said, he has a great weekend here at the Memorial Tournament. He shakes Jack's hand, has his family right there when he leaves. He leads the field in so many things, and it really sets him up for the next major. When we're talking about momentum in golf, golf is such a mental sport, and when you have a lot of things going for you, and when you have a lot of things going your way, the balls are flying the way you want them to, putts are falling for you, you feel like a better player, and you feel like you can, take on the world so big and tough. And, Scottie Scheffler is kind of playing like that right now. We talk about it in like hockey, flow state for a player, when he just kind of loses consciousness, does things off muscle memory, and that's when you're best as an athlete. Scottie Scheffler might be doing this right now. Wyndham Clark talked about it last year, about how much you could get in your own head when you're taking a shot, and that can lead your shot to be completely different from what your intentions were when you go to line up for it. There's no worries of that with Scottie Scheffler right now. He's not missing shots. He's not missing putts. His iron game is the best in the field. It is a beautiful thing to watch. Every time he goes, every time he tees up a ball, Scottie Scheffler is the best player in the world for good reason. Now in the FedEx Cup standings especially, he has a over 2,000 point lead in the FedEx Cup standing. at this rate, we could really just give it to him. This is such a fantastic year, and we're going to talk about it more in segment 3, really how fantastic of a year he's having, because it is something special what he's been able to do on the golf courses this year. So many top 5s, so many wins, so many top 2s. I mean, he is just incredible. And like I said, his weekend was great. All aspects of his game was really working here. He was driving the ball well. I think he was top 10 in driving this weekend. He was the best iron player this weekend. He was top 10 in scrambling. I think he was top 20 in putting, which when you're looking at Scottie Scheffler and when you want to get a weakness in his game and when you're trying to find something that he isn't perfect at, it's putting. And he was still top 20 in the field this weekend in putting, and he had a few kind of shockers of putts, for lack of better terms, and he still was able to put them away, get to 9 under, win the tournament, or get to 8 under and win the tournament. That's what he finished at, 8 under. After a 74 on Sunday, it doesn't even matter. Collin Morikawa did try to make a surge on Sunday, but he fell just one stroke short. It was a bogey on 16 for Morikawa that couldn't force the playoff, although he played good golf on on the weekend, a 68 on Saturday, a 71 on Sunday. And Adam Hadwin fell off a bit. I believe Adam Hadwin was in the last pairing with Scottie Scheffler for this one. Shot a 74 and kind of fell off. But we'll talk about those guys in the next segment. But yeah, just looking back on Scottie Scheffler's weekend, fantastic, very, very impressive what he was able to do, what he's always able to do. He's so consistent and the best player in golf, undisputed right now. So we're going to take our first break of the night on the backs of that, and when I come back, we will be talking about the superlatives for the Memorial, who was the best at all aspects of the game.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. Some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel. We just got done finished talking about the Scottie Scheffler win at Muirfield Village, and now we're moving on to our second topic. There it is. Superlatives for the Memorial. But before we get into that, if you want to help support the GSMC Sports Network in any ways, use the link gsmcpodcast.net for tips and donations. It does help a lot, goes a long way to support the creators here at the GSMC Sports Network. We really appreciate every bit of support that we get from you guys. But with all that being said, we're going to get right into this second segment. Superlatives for the Memorial. It was a fantastic week at the Memorial, but before we get into that, we do have to talk about the rest of the field and how they all did. Of course, it was Collin Morikawa who takes sole second. He finished 7 under, finished his last round at 1 under. He was 2 strokes back of Scottie Scheffler entering the final day, finishes 1 stroke back of him after. Adam Hadwin was right there in contention. He was 4 strokes back of Scottie Scheffler entering the day, as everybody was kind of that far back of Scottie Scheffler, but he goes in final pairing and finishes 4 under 2 over on the day. Unfortunate for Adam Hadwin. Fell off. Looks a lot worse than it really was. Christian Bezuidenhout had a very surprising tournament. We're going to talk about him later in this segment as he does get one of these superlatives here, but he had a very impressive one. It's Matt Fitzpatrick, who really surged in round 4, very consistent, 73, 70, 74, but a 69 on Sunday got him to tied for 5th with Ludwig Oberg and Sepp Straka. Both of those players played very well, besides Sepp Straka on Sunday finishing 4 over as at a 76 to be that far back of Scottie Scheffler when he did have a chance going into the Sunday. Hideki Matsuyama 1 under, Sujay Im 1 under, Tony Finau 1 under, Xander Schauffele rounds out the group of tied for 8th at 1 under. There were 11 players in this field that were under par, and those are the 11. And then you get into Nick Dunlap, who is having a very shocking year. The amateur that won at the Century, I believe it was, to open this season. A very impressive win. He turned pro right after that and has had a very good year. And now he finished tied 12 at one of the best events in the world. Very impressive. Victor Perez tied 12. Sahith Theegala tied 12. Billy Horschel T15. Sam Burns T15. But the one that I really want to talk about is Viktor Hovland, because it looked so much like this was the tournament that he was going to break out this year after a fantastic 2023 season. It looked like he had it, and like this one was the one. But on round 3, he finished, I mean, it was just a blow up on the back 9. 42 on the back 9 for 36, or there par 36 on the back 9, and he finishes with a 42, so goes 6 over after a 1 under on the round 3, 1 under on the front 9. That would have put him at, if he just kept to par with that 1 under, that would have put him at 7 under, and 8 under was the win this weekend. He goes bogey 11, bogey 12, bogey 13, bogey 14, birdies 15, triple bogey 16 from an absolute blow up here on 16. You saw the frustration, and they kept going back to him, and they played out this whole hole basically. And this is the par 3 16 where it's got the water in front of the green. He drives it to the water. He has to take the second penalty stroke, and then he takes the second penalty stroke right into a bunker, chips it far, putts it close, and then gets it in for the 6. And it's just so disappointing for Viktor Hovland, as he definitely had a shot at this one. He was 1 back of the lead. I think at one point in this tournament, he was tied for first with Scottie Scheffler on Sunday or on Saturday. And then just an absolute blow up by him. And then in the round 4, it's a 75 with 2 bogeys that finish out his day on 16 and 17. I mean, he got in his own head, and you really saw it. And golf is a mental sport, and you really saw it with Viktor Hovland this weekend, how much it really can be. So, disappointing results from Viktor Hovland. Rory McIlroy was also tied for 15th, as well as he finished 2 over. It was a 76 on Sunday for Rory McIlroy as well. Some bad scores on Sunday led to these guys playing a lot worse, or their scorecards being a lot worse than you would have expected, but that's just how golf is. You got to perform on Sunday, and they didn't get it done. But for the superlatives, as we're talking about, I do have best driver, best irons, best wedge, best putter, most surprising, and most disappointing to hand out, as we always do. Best driver this weekend goes to Sepp Straka. This guy is a very accurate driver. He isn't a very far driver, but at the Memorial, it isn't about distance. It is about more accuracy at the Memorial, as the OB is really bad, a lot of water in this tournament, and so hitting fairways is so important. And Sepp Straka hit fairways at an 85% accuracy clip. Around 60 is the tour average, and he hit 85% of his fairways this weekend. Very impressive from Sepp Straka. He gained .673 strokes off the tee to the field very impressive. That was top 5 strokes gained off the tee, and that was number 1 with accuracy. But I also want to talk about Akshay Bhatia, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He was first in strokes gained off the tee at 1.033 above the field, but I did elect to go with Sepp Straka because of the accuracy was just that much more of second place. He really was great this weekend when it came to hitting fairways, and you need to hit fairways. Next, it's going to be best irons, and I think you have to hand it out to the guy with the best irons in the game, the best golfer in the world. It's Scottie Scheffler, first in strokes gained approach, first in greens in regulation, first in proximity to hole. This is why he is the best golfer in the world. We talk about it so often, is he hits greens at an insane rate, and he always sticks it close to the hole. First in proximity to hole is very impressive, and strokes gained on approach being first is also very impressive. At the Memorial, we talk about it being a accuracy competition a lot of the time and a putting competition, and he was really great in both those aspects, and that is why he came away as the winner here. Best wedges goes to Hideki Matsuyama. His proximity to hole was 5 foot 11 inches from scrambling. That is 5th, and he was the best at scrambling percentage at an 81.25% of times converting on up and downs. Very impressive. Around the greens with your wedges, that's what you need to do. When you get these very difficult greens, being able to get up and down is so important. So he was able to do it at a very impressive rate. He finished in that group of only 11 guys to finish under par, and that was the reason for it. He didn't drive the ball well, but he was very accurate around the green, and that's really what got him to 1 under on the weekend. So impressive stuff from Hideki Matsuyama when we came into this tournament wondering if he's really healthy. He seemed healthy, and he seems ready to go for the U.S. Open. Of course, when that guy is on, he is one of the best golfers in the world. We saw it. Of course, he has a green jacket. He is a fantastic, fantastic golfer when he is on and on his day. He finished, what tournament was that? I think it was at Riviera earlier this year when he finished with a Sunday 62 for the win, and that's just what he does. He's a very impressive golfer, and he does great things when he's out on the golf course. So Hideki Matsuyama, wedges, best. He was first in scrambling. He was 5th in proximity to hole. So impressive stuff there. Best putter goes to Nick Dunlap. He averaged 25 putts per round, which was first in the field. That's very impressive. He's not 2-putting very often, and he definitely is not 3-putting very often. He was 3rd in strokes gained putting at 1.492, which is very, very impressive on these greens that are so hard and so fast and very difficult to read, with the hole positions being where they were this weekend. He was fantastic. It was very impressive what Nick Dunlap was able to do. So he gets the best putter for this weekend. Most surprising was Christian Bezuidenhout. This is the superlative that he got that I kind of alluded to earlier. It's Christian Bezuidenhout, who has 2 top 10s all year, and he was 4th in the Memorial this year at 3 under. He had a fantastic tournament. Very impressive rounds. 72, 67, 74, 72. So only 1 round over par here at the Memorial, and it is that Saturday, but playing very consistent. That 67 round 2 really pushed him over the edge here, and it's very impressive from Christian Bezuidenhout. Most disappointing is Patrick Cantlay. There are a lot of guys that missed the cut here. Jordan Spieth, Will Zalatoris, I believe, missed the cut. I know Wyndham Clark missed the cut. Ricky Fowler missed the cut. Kurt Kitayama missed the cut. But it's Patrick Cantlay, who is a 2-time winner at Muirfield Village. He misses the cut here. 7 over. He is second only to Tiger Woods in lifetime earning at Muirfield Village. Again, missing the cut for that guy is most surprising in a bad way, but definitely most disappointing, Patrick Cantlay. But yeah, a lot of guys had great weekends. Very impressive, of course, Scottie Scheffler. He probably deserved to win every single award besides most disappointing, but I'm only going to give him one of them because that was the only one that he was absolutely the best at. Undisputed, 1st in greens in regulation, 1st in strokes gained on approach, 1st in proximity to hole. I mean, what are we doing? His irons are insane. Magic, what he's able to do with them. And very impressive. But that'll wrap it up for our second segment of the night. When I come back, we will be talking about Scottie Scheffler and his amazing year so far, how he is the official world golf number 1 by a lot.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we're on to our third segment of the night, talking about Scottie Scheffler's amazing year. And what a year he's having. Let's get right into this conversation here. He is the best golfer in the world by a lot. He is the FedEx Cup. He is top of the FedEx Cup standings by a lot. He is having a year that we haven't seen since probably Tiger Woods, how dominant he is being. We talked about on the first segment, he is the first player since Tiger Woods and only the second ever player to win the Masters, the Players, and the Memorial Tournament all in the same year. He has won 4 of 7 signature events this year, I believe, which I think that ties the record for most signature events won in a single year. I think 5 would be the record, and he has a chance to do that at the Travelers Championship after the U.S. Open. He has already won the Masters this year. We're going to talk about all of his, the breakdown of all of his placements, but to understand how, amazing of a year he's having, let's look into the stats first. He is first in strokes gained total. He is first in strokes gained tee to green. He is second in strokes gained off the tee. And I think that might be the most important thing. He has fixed his accuracy off the tee, and he's not finding himself in the rough and in bad situations on holes that he can't afford it. He's hitting a lot of fairways. His total driving is 6th in the PGA Tour right now. He is 10th in accuracy. His longest drive was at the Century, that the hole, whatever hole it was, he had a 430-yard drive. Everybody had like a 470-yard drive at the Century. I forget what hole that was, but it was a downhill hole, so it doesn't count. But that, very impressive what he's been able to do with accuracy. His driving distance has been around 301 average this year. That's right where you kind of want to be for a lot of these tournaments. I mean, you expect to be right at 300, and that will put you at a good second shot in on par 4s and par 5s. His left rough tendency, I think, would probably be the weakness of his game, is he's hitting the left rough a lot of the times off the drive at 105, or he's 105th place at that at 14.31%. However, he is the best at playing out of the left rough, so maybe he's just trying to hit it into the left rough because he loves it. Distance from edge to fairway, 18 feet 8 inches. That's first. So he's hitting the middle of the fairway when he hits fairways. His club head speed is 47th. His greens in regulation, first. Proximity to the hole, first. Approaches from 150 to 175, first. Approaches from 50 to 125, first. Approaches from 100 to 125, first. Approaches from 75 to 100, first. Approaches from inside 100, second. Approaches from outside 100, third. Fairway proximity, first. You look at Scottie Scheffler and everything, he's just number 1 in. It's ridiculous. He goes for the green at a 74.7. He doesn't lay up ever. He goes for the green 3/4 of the time, and that's 6th on the PGA Tour. He's 4th in scrambling, percentage at 69.20%. He is 70% at scrambling from 20 to 30 yards out, which is second. Proximity to hole from sand, second at 7 feet 1 inches. Putting average, first at 1.66 putts per green. First in putting average. This was the weakness of his game. When you're looking at Scottie Scheffler and saying he needs to fix something, for so long it was that putting. And he is first. Birdie or better conversion percentage, first at 38.96%. He is converting on birdies when he gets an opportunity to do so. He is third in putts per round on the second round, which is very impressive. One putt percentage, 16th. Putting from 15 to 20 feet, 8th. Scoring average, first, of course. Birdie average, first. Par breaks, or breaking par, first. Par 4, he's first on par 4s. He's first on par 5 in scoring averages. He's 8th on par 3 in scoring averages. What else? Like round 1 scoring average first, round 2 scoring average first, round 3 scoring average 12th. Maybe those Saturdays he needs to work on. If there's one thing, Sunday scoring average first. It's just ridiculous. He's first in literally everything. Consecutive cuts, second at 38 consecutive cuts. I'm actually curious who's first. I'm actually going to look into that. Now I'm curious who's first. It's Xander Schauffele who is in first at 48 straight cuts made for Xander Schauffele. That is an impressive stat. But we're talking about Scottie Scheffler, and it is very, very impressive. He is also, of course, first in official money earned at $24 million made this year, and we're not even to the third major of the year. That is a record for most money earned in a single year, and we're not even at the halfway mark of the season. The U.S. Open marks the third major, which is the halfway mark of the season. What are we doing? Scottie Scheffler he is actually amazing this year. Number of wins, 5 wins on the year. That's of course first. He is first in FedEx Cup points. We talked about that at 4,351. I think that already eclipses Victor Hovland's points last year, but I do have to look to make sure that that's right. Don't quote me on that. But just every part of his game is impressive. His wedges, his putter, his driver, his irons, all of it is insane. It's so impressive. And you know what that gets you? Look at the results. First at the Memorial. Of course, we just talked about that. Tied second at the Charles Schwab, and it was a pretty disappointing tournament at the Charles Schwab, and he still finished second. PGA Championship tied 8th. He got arrested during that. I think we could give him a break here. He was first at the RBC Heritage, first at the Masters. He was tied second at the Houston Open, first at the Players, first at the Arnold Palmer. And then he didn't get off to that great of a start, but still tied for 10th at the Genesis, tied for 3rd at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, tied for 6th at Pebble Beach, tied 17 at the Amex. That is his worst placement this year, T17 at the Amex. That was in January. And the Century T5 to open the season on January 7th. Look at these results. So impressive. He is the best golfer in the world, and there's a reason. He's won 5 of the last 8 tournaments that he's played in. But in that time, he got arrested, and he had a baby on the way. And he finished 1-1 T2, 1-1 T8, T2, 1. And now he's going to the U.S. Open with a very good chance at winning that as well. I think he opened at a plus 300 to win the U.S. Open, which is insane. There was so much discourse about he opened as a plus 450 at the Masters to win it. This is a plus 300 for a major tournament. Scottie Scheffler is having one of the best seasons the PGA Tour has ever had. These are stats that are rivaled only by Tiger Woods in 2001, and that was 2001 Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer of all time, and I don't know if it's really debated. he is, I mean, it's just so impressive. He is the official World Golf won by so much and for great reason. I mean, nobody else is competing with this guy, but besides historical golfers of all time, I think he's having a better year than any year Jack Nicklaus has ever had, and he is the second best golfer of all time. Jack Nicklaus, of course, a better year than Rory McIlroy has ever had, better year than Jordan Spieth ever had, a better year than Justin Johnson ever had, better year than Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, all these guys that are fantastic golfers in their own right. But Scottie Scheffler is blowing them all out of the water. I mean, he was having an insane year, and then he showed up at the Memorial at Muirfield Village and got his first win at Jack's Place, which is one of those. I mean, there's like 3 golf courses that we really talk about, but that play like majors, and it is the Players. Although it didn't play that much like a major this year, at 20 under was Scottie Scheffler's winning score. But the Memorial definitely does, and he showed out and got 1 under, or he finished first, was the leader for most of this tournament. I think he got the lead on Friday and then was first for the entire rest of the way. There was never really a point from Friday on that I was like, Scottie Scheffler might not win this. No, I think we all knew that he was going to win this. That's what's been so impressive about him. He has been dominant. I mean, you look, I said the stats, first in about everything, especially with the iron play, has been fantastic. Very impressive what Scottie Scheffler has been able to do. He puts himself at a better chance at getting birdie than anybody on tour, and he converts it at a better rate than anybody on tour. So Scottie Scheffler, very, very impressive what he's been doing this year. He's going to keep it up, going to the U.S. Open at number 2 Pinehurst in North Carolina. But that'll wrap it up for our third segment of the night. When I come back, we will be talking about Live Golf Houston, a review of how that shaped up over this past weekend.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, we're back at the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're going to talk about Live Golf Houston, how that shaped up over this past weekend, as it was a pretty fun weekend, as the teams that played very well was kind of a shape up from what we've seen. From the overall standings, it's been the Crushers that are first, and they come away first as they finish tied for 4th at Houston. They've been in first for a long time. They opened the year with a second, a fourth, 2 first, and since then they haven't given up that first place spot. For the Crushers, that's Bryson DeChambeau's team. Of course, he's been playing some great golf on the Live Golf Tour. And then John Rahm's team is second. They are still in second. I believe the only change has been the Ripper has fallen off a little bit. I believe the Ripper were third before this, and now you have Torque GC at third. Of course, Torque GC is that Joaquin Niemann team, who Joaquin Niemann has had such a great season and such a great year here. So very impressive that he's been able to, kind of get his team to third a little bit by himself. He's been that great. But Ripper, that's Cam Smith's team. That they are in fourth after the back-to-back wins at Adeline and Singapore. Couldn't get it done when they get back to America. I think they just don't play well in America. It's 10th at Houston, 10th in Miami. They finished third in Honduras. So they just like overseas tournaments. So hopefully when they go back overseas, I believe they have Nashville, and then they're back overseas for them. So, but for this tournament, it was the Cleeks that finished first. They finally get a first after a T second last last time out at Singapore. They finished T2 with Fireballs in Singapore and get a first here. And now they are 7th in the standings. They've jumped the Fireballs. I believe they also jumped the Range Goats, who they were behind, who is Bubba Watson's team. It is Bubba Watson's team. They finished 12th this week. Very disappointing. But as how the leaderboard shaped out, it was Cleeks, that is Martin Kramer's team, finished first. Smash, the Brooks Koepka's team, finished second. Fireballs, Sergio Garcia's team, finished third. 4 Aces finally getting a good result, finishes fourth. They jump to 10th now with a tied for fourth. Their best result before that was a second, but that was the second tournament of the year, and since then it's been 10, T7, 8, 12, T8 for them. So very disappointing year. They are in 10th. That is Dustin Johnson's team. He hasn't played great golf this year, Dustin Johnson, but was able to get it done this year. It was really on Patrick Reed, who hasn't had a great year at all. He's turned it around a little bit. Crushers are 5th, but they keep their number 1 spot in the overall standings. It was DeChambeau. Had a pretty good week. Joaquin Niemann's team finished 6th. That's Torque. That's also with Munoz, Pereira, and Ortiz. And then 7th, John Rahm's team with Tyrell Hatton, Vincent, and Surratt. Majestics finished 8th. That's Ian Poulter's team with Westwood, Stenson, and Horsfield. And then you have High Flyers finished 9th this weekend. That's Mickelson's team with Steele, Tringle, and Ogletree. Ripper finished 10th. Of course, that's Cam Smith's team. We already talked about with them. They also have Leishman, Herbert, and Jones. Stinger, 11. Luis Oosthuizen, Burmeister, Grace, and Schwartzel. 12th, the Range Goats, Bubba Watson, Oilane, Wolf, Peters. 13th, Ironheads, Na, Lee, Vincent, and Kozuma. And then when you look at the players, how they shaped up, it's Carlos Ortiz who had the best week of any players, getting the individual victory. Adrian Meronk for Cleeks GC finished 14 under. He was tied for second, or he got sole possession of second with Patrick Reed. Or he got sole possession of second. Patrick Reed got third at 13 under. Puig and Garcia were both right behind. And then you have Brooks Koepka at 9. Martin Kamer tied for 9th as well. Dustin Johnson 13th. Gooch at 15th. Sergio Munoz tied for 15th as well. Carlos Schwartzel at 18th. You have Tyrell Hatton, Bryson DeChambeau. Both those guys finished 18th. Bryson DeChambeau going into a U.S. Open now this weekend. Finished 5 under. So maybe a thing to look at when you're looking at his momentum going to that U.S. Open. Maybe it's thrown off a little bit from this result. But some guys that just played some bad golf this weekend, it's John Rahm had to withdraw. Luis Oosthuizen, both of them withdrew. So I don't know the reason for either of them withdrawing, so I can't speculate on that too much. Hopefully both of them are doing well. Their injuries not too insurmountable, as both of them are I believe both of them qualify for the U.S. Open, if I'm not mistaken. I know John Rahm qualifies for the U.S. Open, so we'll see if we see him at number 2, Pinehurst. You have Bubba Watson, who finished bottom of the barrel pretty much at 6 over. He finished 51. You also have Cam Smith, who is 48th. Ian Poulter, 46th. He had a pretty bad week. You also have Phil Mickelson, 37th. Joaquin Niemann, who has had such a fantastic season, finished tied for 32nd with Harold Varner and a bunch of guys. So, Houston proved to be a very easy course, I would say. A lot of guys were able to go out there and score, but for the ones that weren't able to do so quite as well, they finished at the bottom, and a lot of these guys kind of are consistently at the bottom. I've seen Bubba Watson at the bottom of these leaderboards a lot. He's not playing his best of golf, definitely not playing his best of golf. Phil Mickelson hasn't been really above where he's been at that 37 mark. But it played as a very fun course. There was difficult holes all over the place. We saw it on Thursday. It was a very long course. I believe there was a par 5 that was about 600 yards. All the par 3s were above 200 yards as well. So The greens were a little bit easier. I saw a lot of putts rolling comparative to the Memorial. I mean, I watched these tournaments side by side, and it was kind of night and day. The Memorial, of course, has some of the best greens in the world. And then Houston Golf, I think it's Houston Golf Club is where this event took place, if I'm not mistaken. And they a little bit worse of greens than, of course, the Memorial, but that's comparing apples to oranges, if you will. It was a very entertaining one, though. I mean, Live Golf has proved to be entertaining ever since its inception. You can count on that. The Memorial, in my opinion, was a little bit more entertaining because you have Scottie Scheffler doing so well and Colin Morikawa right on his tail, and then some guys like Victor Hovland who was competing and then kind of fell off. For this, it's a little bit hard for me to really get into this as much as I did the Memorial, just because I know these guys are more or less. I mean, Bryson DeChambeau kind of uses this to play for the U.S. Open, and I think he's kind of open about that. Of course, he does care about how his team does and how he does individually on the Live Golf. He signed up to win, and he is a competitor. But for him, he got right to North Carolina, right to the number 2 U.S. Pinehurst. He's over there so excited to get on with the U.S. Open. I just feel like for him, it's just a little taste of the taste of what happened at the PGA Championship, how he was so close to getting into a playoff against Xander Schauffele. I mean, he was warming up for a playoff and found out on the practice screen, I think he was on, that he lost and Xander Schauffele made his putt on 18. So for him, maybe a little revenge is in the cards. He's going to be one to look out for. I know. I'm so excited to see how he plays at the U.S. Open at number 2 Pinehurst, as that will be our next segment as we finish up talking about the Live Golf Tour. Of course, when we're looking at the team standings, how they shape out, not much movement. Cliques move up a little bit, but not too much, and it is the top 4 teams really so close to each other. Besides Crushers and Legion, there is a little bit of a gap, about a 17-point gap between first and second. But it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this shapes up, as there are 5 tournaments left in the Live Golf season. But moving on, we have the U.S. Open news and what's going on over there, as there are a few things to talk about that's going on in North Carolina right now. Welcome back to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We are in our 5th and final segment of the show tonight, talking about the U.S. Open, as we have the third out of 4 majors on the year looming over us going into this weekend. It is the U.S. Open. It's going to be a very, very exciting one here at the number 2 U.S. Pinehurst in North Carolina. First and foremost, the number one thing I want to talk about is how fast these greens are. I saw a few clips of kind of guys warming up, just throwing a ball onto the green, seeing how it falls. And I saw one, I think it was on the par 5 5th hole. A guy threw a ball, and this was a viral clip, so probably most of you saw it. He threw a ball onto the green, and it rolled up, and it just sprinted backwards back at him, and it fell into the sand right behind him. And man, that would be brutal. It looks like it's going to be such a difficult course. And from what happened at Valhalla and all the people talking about how bad the PGA Championship was because of how high the scoring was, this is going to be one for a lot of those guys to watch, because it seems like it's going to be a very fun and entertaining tournament at the U.S. Open this year. The first big news that I want to talk about is Jon Rahm withdraws from the U.S. Open. I just found this out as I talked in the fourth segment about me not knowing what happened with him. It's a lingering foot issue that caused him to withdraw from Houston, and now he is going to continue to let the foot rest as he withdraws from the 2024 U.S. Open. He probably wasn't a contender to win. He has been playing some pretty playing some pretty bad golf when he comes and plays the majors. It seems like he's a little shaken up. Of course, this is all speculation, but he left on bad terms with some of the players going to LIV Golf Tour, as everybody does. But it seems like it's been hard for him, kind of adjusting to LIV Golf over PGA Tour, because I mean, he made the decision, and he was very open about it. He made the decision for his family and to do it because it's a lot of money for his family. I mean, this is generational wealth. I think it was $150 million that he got to go over to LIV Golf Tour. That's generational wealth. So he does it for his family, but I mean, at what cost? He isn't too happy on the LIV Tour. I think it is very clear about that. But for him, we'll see if he can get healthy going into the Open Championship in England or in the UK. I believe that will be in August, if I'm not mistaken, or that'll be in July. So that will be the fourth and final major of this year, seeing if he can get back on track, because he won the Masters last year, and he was at times last year the official world golfer number one over Scottie Scheffler, and having a good year last year. But it's been unfortunate for him whenever he does show face on the at the major courses. At the Masters, he didn't have a good performance. At the PGA Championship, he had a pretty bad performance. So we'll see what he can do when he comes back in a month, if he does come back in a month. That's the first thing. Another thing is, this happens every single major cycle, and I'm just going to say it right now because I have to talk about it. It's Tiger Woods. Can he compete? He can't. I'm going to say it right now. Until this guy makes a cut, I'm worried, and I'm not going to be confident in his ability to go out there and win a tournament. He is saying, of course, I mean, every week leading up to a major, Tiger Woods is saying that he feels great and he can go out and compete. I mean, that's all we see, like, time after time. Tiger Woods has strength to win U.S. Open. Tiger Woods 2024 U.S. Open press conference is just what the news is when you look up U.S. Open news, and it's unfortunate. We should be talking about Scottie Scheffler, and I mean, it's Tiger Woods, biggest name in golf of all time, so we talk about him, and it's warranted to a point. But let's talk about Scottie Scheffler here, the guy that really does have the best of odds to win this one. But for Tiger Woods, of course, he believes that he can win this one. I just don't have faith in him going out and winning a golf tournament anytime soon, so I'm a little bit out on him. And then another big news from the U.S. Open, Rory McIlroy calls off his divorce before the U.S. Open, as it was quoted, they resolved their differences, which is great for him. I mean, happy to see that family back together. Of course, they do have a kid, or I believe they have 2 kids. I know they have at least one. So for them to be back together, that's really good for Rory McIlroy. Hopefully, You don't believe that too much of these personal issues affect their golf game, but of course they definitely can, and they definitely probably do. So for him, we'll see how he plays going into this U.S. Open. Now back with his wife could be very good thing for him, as it was just a month ago that we were talking about how they got a divorce, and that came out of nowhere, and it was a shock to everybody. So good for Rory McIlroy. that was one of the bigger news that came out leading up to this U.S. Open for him. Of course, official world golfer number 3. But talking about the official world golfer number 2, Xander Schauffele, he had a good weekend at the Memorial. Although he finished only 1 under, he was in contention for a lot of it. Going into this U.S. Open, it's going to be interesting to see how he can bounce back and if he is able to compete and is able to win his second major of the year. He wins his first major of his career at Valhalla at the PGA Championship. Now he has a chance to win 2 in 1 year. So a lot of names can win, can kind of make history here. Of course, Rory McIlroy can win a U.S. Open, ending his decade-long major drought. Scottie Scheffler can win his second of the season. Xander Schauffele can win his second of the season. Both of those guys would be an elite company, winning 2 in 1 year. But then there's also guys like Bryson DeChambeau who can definitely win this from the Live Golf Tour. Brooks Koepka, who always plays amazing in majors. Dustin Johnson always plays amazing in majors. And then you have guys that like Victor Hovland, like Ludwig Oberg, like Sahith Theegala, who are looking for their first majors of their career, and they definitely can get it done here at U.S. Open. It's going to be a very difficult golf course, and for the guys that were complaining about how low of the scores that the winning cards were for, or how high of the scores of the winning cards were for the PGA Championship, they're going to love this one because it does definitely look like it's going to be a very difficult golf course. We're going to, of course, preview the golf course on Thursday. I'm excited to do so as Pinehurst is one of the more beautiful golf courses in the world and one of the ones that guys always look forward to. Of course, it's hosted the U.S. Open before, as the U.S. Open goes through cycles, and I'm excited to see the history of it, who's won there, who it favors. But I'll do a deep dive on that on Thursday. But as for this podcast, I think we'll end it there, talking about the U.S. Open. I'm so excited for the third major of the year. Of course, when we're talking about majors, it is always a chance for guys to cement their name in history, as this is what we talk about when we're comparing legacies in golf, is the majors. It is the most important thing in golf. So that'll wrap it up for this Tuesday GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you all for your support. It means a lot to us. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like and subscribe on YouTube if you're watching it, or rate it on any of your favorite podcasting networks or sites, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you guys are listening on. Any comment or review really does mean a lot. If you guys want to follow us on more than just YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we also have TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, really whatever you're looking for on social media, the GSMC Sports Network will be there. So thank you all once again for your support, and all of you guys have a fantastic and wonderful evening.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow.